Hi, this is Phil Palucha of Number One Property Group. For those of you that aren't familiar with these videos, these are typically videos that I do for our clients and our investors. Just to kind of sum up a little bit of what's going on with the news at the moment. I appreciate it's difficult to stay on top of everything that's happening in the media. It's difficult to stay on top of everything that's happening in terms of some great books and some great content that gets put out there. Which webinars should you be looking at? Which conferences should you be going to? It's very difficult to keep on top of all of this and know which ones add real value. So what I'm aiming to do with this video is really give you a snapshot of the last couple of days, some news articles that have been released that I think would be useful for business owners and people looking to develop their own property portfolios or a career in property. So let's make a start with City AM. James Warrington has written an article about the London housing market predominantly and the influx of the foreign investors that have been purchasing properties in those areas. So we're now at 57% of prime London real estate being snapped up by overseas buyers. That's the highest level that they've had in over 6 years. There was a little bit of doom and gloom around this article. It's a very well written article, but obviously because of what we're talking about, there has been a little bit of doom and gloom. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to put a slightly different spin on it and stop and think as a business owner and ask the question, are we doing enough to take advantage of that opportunity? So those of you who do a lot of business in London, perhaps you have an estate agency in London or an investment consultancy or whatever it is, are you doing enough to capitalize on that statistic? So little questions like your marketing budget and the material that you're creating, is 57% of it aimed at overseas buyers? Because if it isn't, which I suspect is probably the case with a lot of people listening to this, perhaps it should be, because that's a massive chunk of the market there that could be being taken advantage of. It's a massive chunk of the market that if you're not sort of properly marketing yourself to and introducing yourself to those people, that you could potentially be missing out on. And you know, without going all political, with the uncertainty of Brexit and all that kind of stuff, I think there's always an element of we need to make sure as business owners that we are prepared, that we're making sure that we have measures in place to take ourselves to that next level. There's another article I will introduce you to. I will always share the links to these articles, by the way, below in the comments so that you can check out the original articles yourself. That's not because I'm discrediting them, but I also don't think you'd want to sit here and enjoy me reading these articles at you. I don't think you'd enjoy that very much. But it is a very interesting statistic. 57% of foreign buyers are now taking up prime London real estate. The article does go on to kind of discuss where those people are from, which percentage are from the EU, which percentage are from the East, what the Middle East looks like. And I think, you know, if done smart and you read that in the right way, I think it's almost giving you a bit of a roadmap in terms of these are the areas that you need to be marketing, these are the places that you need to be speaking with, and then potentially there is an opportunity there to tweak what you're doing and capitalize. The second article I wanted to bring you on to is an article on iNews. It was done by Vicky Spratt. Again, another very well written article, particularly with some comments from this chap here who is in Ivan Pius. Apologies, Ivan, if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Just talking about the different approaches and what could potentially happen to the UK property market should there be a no-deal Brexit. It's something that we'd all like to see avoided, I think. Certainly in terms of the uncertainty that it would create in the market, as we've said here. But I just think it's another interesting article to cross-reference, particularly with the one here from City AM, when you're looking at that saying, okay, so let's look at what's happening right now with the percentage of foreign buyers. Let's look at what could potentially happen with a no-deal Brexit and what the ramifications of that within the UK property market itself. And therefore, there could well be a shortfall that needs to be filled for agents from the overseas market. And are we doing enough to do that? Are we doing enough to tackle that? I don't know. It depends on your business, but it's certainly food for thought. I really enjoyed these articles. This is one that probably takes about 10-15 minutes to have a good read through all the way through. But again, there are some really juicy things in here about what could this scenario look like, what happens with this. And actually, it was one of the best articles I've read so far on this because it was quite clear in as much as you can be on these are what the industry expert thinks, this is what this person thinks, this is what this person thinks. What do you think? And ultimately, I think that could be potentially very helpful also. A little bit of an odd one to show you this one, but hopefully you'll appreciate why I'm why I'm showing you what I'm showing you. This was an article that really caught my attention. It was in Estate Agent Today. Graham Norwood has done an article on the National Association of Estate Agents annual conference, which met last week. There was a few interesting tweets. So let me take down to one that kind of kick-started this. So Sam Mitchell sat at the NAEA conference. It's a sea of old white men with grey hair. Not sure this is the future of innovation. Now, there have been some decent responses to that from people kind of questioning, well, hang on, we've got bags of experience here. I don't think that that's what Sam was getting at. Sam, feel free to get involved and tweet back. I'll tag you in this tweet, and if I've misunderstood the point, then feel free to point me in the right direction. But what I kind of read from what Sam was saying there was new ideas require new ways of thinking, and what I've often found with conferences, similar to that, is that it tends to be the same people over and over again, and they're people who think like you, because they're people who've been in the industry for as long as you. And actually, I'm a big believer in trying to use different sectors, trying to learn lessons from other sectors, trying to look at different ways of marketing. So, for example, as agents, I know that leaflet dropping still has an impact, okay? But it's such an old, outdated way of marketing. I can't help but think that the money that's invested there, depending on the audience that you're trying to target, of course, could be better spent somewhere else. I'm not saying that that's the case for everybody's business, but for my business, for example, I know that Facebook and Instagram posts are far more beneficial for my marketing budget than it would be to put that into leaflets or, letters or whatever it is that I'd be sending out. I just know that that's the way that my audience interact. And what I kind of read from Sam's tweet was something that I've felt in the industry for a number of months, possibly even years now, which was almost a frustration of what's next. What's next? What do we do next? What is the next big thing? Where should we be putting our attention? Graham Locke and I actually had this conversation a number of weeks ago, both on and off air. Again, I'll share the link to that article if that's interesting to anybody. To that interview if that's interesting to anybody. Graham, of course, has now founded the Federation for Independent Agents, which is exactly about this. It's about sitting down, having a discussion and discussing what is next with fellow agents. It's about sharing best practice. It's about sharing ideas. It's about looking at how we can be innovative in the future. And the reason that I have this article in third is not a coincidence. Based on the two things that we've been talking about previously and how you can take advantage of those opportunities. Are you being innovative enough as a business? And that's not a question for you to answer to me. That's a rhetorical question. Can you honestly say that you are doing enough to target that 57% of foreign investors? Is your business doing enough to encourage those conversations? If it's not, is that because you don't want to, or is that because you don't know where to start? Because as a business owner, I can all too well relate with the fact that there are so many things out there. It becomes very, very difficult to actually pinpoint where you should be investing your money, where you should be spending your time, which software you should be looking at, which marketing resources you should be looking at. And ultimately, I'm kind of hoping to kind of stimulate that conversation. I'm more than happy to put people in touch with anybody and sort of spark that conversation if that's helpful. But ultimately, Sam, I kind of took away from that message that you were speaking for the industry. I don't know whether you were meant to speak for the industry, but it's about what is next. Where is the future of innovation? It's the fact that you mention innovation and the future of innovation in your tweet makes me think that you're sat in that room to find out what's next. I'd be interested to know, because I presumably that message was pretty early on in the day. Sam, I'm certainly interested to know whether you actually took anything more away from the conference in terms of the future of innovation and what that looks like. If you did, please feel free to share that. If you've got any useful resources, feel free to tag them in. I'm sure the people who presented them at the event, at the conference would be most grateful for you sharing those. Again, I will share the link to this, but I felt Sam got a bit of stick actually for what he'd said, but I actually think he had a deeper meaning behind that, which was that we're all crying out for information, we're all looking for what's next, and yeah, thankfully there's a few people talking about it. This is also really interesting. Now, this is kind of by the by. This isn't actually the most interesting news article. No criticism of Rosalind, of course, within Property Industry Eye. But Ward's estate agents have put out an advert and they're trialing this advert, and it just, again, it gave me real food for thought. So I'm going to show you the advert. I want you to have a look at it, and then we'll have a very quick discussion afterwards.
When I grow up, I want to be a doctor.
Oh, that's lovely. And Louis, you're next.
When I grow up, I want to be a policeman.
How about you, Jack?
When I grow up, I want to be an estate agent.
Really?
I just want to make people happy.
I actually really like that advert. I mean, especially as somebody who spent a number of years working in recruitment within property, and having a lot of estate agents between now and the last 10 years for sure. I like that, and I like that for two reasons. Number one is it plays on the personal approach, why we got into estate agents in the first place, to help people to do a good job, because we get a buzz from that. Yes, there is always a buzz from the commission check that comes through, but I don't know about you, but I love when things turn up at the desk and emails turn up on my phone or whatever, and people are really grateful that you've helped them do such a good job, whether that was buying an investment property or buying somewhere for their family to live, or even selling an investment property or a family home. I think everybody has their own motivations, and I just really like what that advert captures. So well done to Wards for that. What I would say though is, I mean, they can't be expected to do this, so I'm not asking Wards to predict the future, don't worry, I'm not asking you to do that. But it was interesting because I thought to myself, Jack wants to be an estate agent. He's only a young man at this point. I wonder what the world of estate agency will look like when Jack is of age and can be an estate agent. I wonder what that market looks like. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because there's a whole discussion at the moment around, will it become more online? Will it be a hybrid? Will it be the current traditional model we know now with more of the online functionality embraced? I don't know the answer to that question. If I did know the answer to that question, I'd be extremely rich by now. But I'm looking forward to watching this progress, and I just thought I'd share that video because it was quite nice. Very quickly is a final little resource actually, which was in the Negotiator. I saw this published. I think it was published today. It's about a portal called Residential People. Now, I was having a good read of this. Again, I won't bore you with it all. And just to clarify, I do not know anything about Chris May or his business or any of that kind of stuff. But it looks very clever. I mean, I've had a nosy round. I like the model behind it. I think it makes a lot of sense. There are also not too many things in this world that are free, even on a very basic level. So there's an additional tool here for agents to publicize their properties. If you sell one of them, having advertised 100 of them, it was still worthwhile doing, wasn't it? Because it's one more sale. So I can see why it benefits. For those of you that weren't around at the very beginning of Rightmove's life, I'm not suggesting, by the way, because as I said, I don't know. Maybe they will be as big as, maybe they won't get anywhere close to. But I like the idea of encouraging people to utilize it, giving them an opportunity of look, here is a free to list portal for you to be able to advertise your stock. You can sponsor it, you can do whatever you want. There is paid options so that you can get more traction and more marketing, but ultimately it is a free place to have the very basic sort of listing for your property. And those of you that are into SEO and all that kind of stuff and backlinks, is never going to hurt to have more links out there with people sort of sharing and discussing what you do. So definitely check out Residential People. Again, I will share this. It may or may not work for your business, but I thought to myself, I'm constantly being emailed with things that are going to cost me more and more money each month that are going to revolutionize my business, and here's a potential one that it may not revolutionize the business, but it might get you a few quick wins or a few wins there in the background. It's an established process already. They have a nice user face. I've seen some very good things written about it, so definitely feel free to go and check that out. So that was it. That's the roundup for the news for the last couple of days. I hope that's been helpful. I would love to know your thoughts and feelings on the articles that have been written on any of the conferences that you've heard about. I'd also love to hear what sort of your thoughts are about how you embrace that new part of the market. If you're not doing enough, how can you change that? What do you think you can do to turn that around and sort of target those areas? Any questions for me, I'm always more than happy to answer. I may not necessarily have the answer, but I'll certainly go away and find out for you if I don't. I hope this has been helpful for you. This bit of a news sum up. We'll be doing these relatively often. And yeah, hopefully that's been beneficial for you. Speak soon.